single step. We don't want that. We know when they take the key. We know if the truck's running. We know if the truck's not running. We know if it's in first gear. We know when they shut the door. We're watching that they do 3 points of contact. They don't have to tell us all those things. Just do it. So, I kind of get a little in the gray area between, I just told you, you don't tell the trooper all that stuff, and then I tell you, as an instructor, I explain what I'm doing. So, sometimes I will explain. Sometimes I'll explain a lot, sometimes a little. Other times I'll get in, not today because we just started with a new group and stuff, but other times I'll do it as if there's a trooper there, and I will only say the words that I would tell them. And like sometimes I've done that, and I'll say, okay, so now I'm going to do my governor cutout between 120 and 140. Then I get a student piping up, oh, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to rev it 12 to 1400 RPM. It's like, you see my foot? I'm on the accelerator. But I wouldn't, with the trooper, tell him I am now revving it. I just do it. You know what I'm saying? So he would see that. Okay. So, with some explanation, when you hop in the truck, he might be in the truck. He might hand it to you. You might have it in your hand. First thing I got to do is make sure it's in first gear. If it's already in first, I'm good. Stick the key in my pocket. Now, if it's not in first, it's in neutral, well, I put it in first. That's simple. Well, maybe it won't go into first. Sometimes the gears are just lined up wrong. I might have to start it to get it into gear. So, I would say, trooper, I need to start it to put it into gear. Because if I just hop in and start the truck, he's going to say, oh, you forgot the shock block detail. Turn the key one click, I wait a few seconds. I have to step on the clutch every time, or it won't start, it won't crank unless I'm on the clutch. Start it. Once it's running, I not go into gear. Let the clutch up a little bit, and once the gears on the transmission come free, then it'll go into gear. Shut it off, take the key. Now again, I'm telling you that. You would not say to the trooper all this. All you'd have to say is, trooper, I got to start it to get it in first gear. Then you do it. Now you climb out. Take the shock block. You'll learn in the yard the proper way to use 3 points of contact, put the shock box down and pick them up. But I can't show you that on this because there's no steps, there's no handrails or anything else. But you'll learn that. But that is the procedure for doing that. Now, I get back in the truck. Every time I start the truck, I have to have it neutral, I have to step on the clutch. Now there is a little bit of a delay. After you turn the key, you're going to wait about 5 seconds before you can actually crank it. So I try and use that time wisely. As soon as I get in, I'm putting the key and I turn it on. Now, while it's doing that little systems check, I put it neutral, I step on the clutch, start it. Once it's running, I gently come off the clutch. Okay, trooper, I'm going to do a brake bleed down. I need to start with my system fully charged. Now it says in the book, if you're following along, you rev it 12 to 1400 RPM. I don't have to tell the trooper that, I just do it. Now, that would be enough for me to just charge it. But I do want to take a precaution, because a couple things can go wrong. If my governor, if the governor hasn't cut in, if I'm above 100, but my governor's cut out, I never cut low enough for it to cut in, I got to get it below 100 to even start charging, number one. One way to do that, the only way to do that is to release my parking brakes and get some air out of the system. Another problem I could have, if my trailer tank is empty and I charge the tractor, but this red valve is out, I'm not sending any air to my trailer, so my trailer tank's going to stay empty. So when I charge it, I'm just going to tell the trooper, while I charge it, I'm going to put my valves in to make sure my trailer is charged. I rev it, the pressure comes up, At some point, it's going to stop charging, and then I reset the brakes, and I tell them my system's fully charged. Okay, first thing I'm going to test is the governor cutting. I'm going to get it down to 100 psi. My governor should cut in. That's all I have to say. Pushing those in drops my pressure down again because I'm taking air out of the tank, putting it in the spring brake. It'll get close to 100. Probably won't get all the way there, so I'm going to have to tap the brakes a few times. Watching the gauge very carefully. I just get it to 100, not below. I want to see if it cuts in at 100, so I have to get it at 100. Once it's at 100, okay, trooper, I'm at 100. I watch the gauge. As soon as I am sure the gauge is starting to raise up, okay, my governor cut in. You could say my pressure's building, my gauge is rising, it's starting to charge. You don't have to follow any type of a script, but just again, as far as words, what I said is, I'm going to check my governor cut in. I need to get it to 100. My governor should cut in. I'm at 100. And yes, the governor cut in. So that covers everything. I told him it should cut in at 100. I told him it was at 100. I told him it cut in. I immediately get onto the accelerator. Should cut out again between 120 and 140. I just told them what should happen. And in probably about this amount of time, you're going to hear, psh, it's going to stop moving. And then I read the gauge. What did it stop at? So it cut out at 125. That's where these gauges are. That's why I say that. A lot of our trucks, that's what it's going to do. So, again, here's what you don't want to do. And this happens way, way more often than not, especially when students are new. So they just did the governor cut in. Okay, so my governor has cut in. I know this because my needle is moving. So, after the governor cut in, I'm going to do the governor cut out. So, in order to do the governor cut out, I need to step on my accelerator and rev the engine between 12 and 1400 RPM. And I will watch my needle. When my needle stops, it means my governor cut out. And it should cut out between 120 and 140. And I'm on the other side and I say, okay, that governor cut out about 45 seconds ago. People go through these long, long spells. As soon as that needle starts going, it's going. The governor cut in. And in a 10-minute or 10-step test, people will add 2 to 3 minutes between each step. After they finish one, they talk for 2 or 3 minutes. And then they do the next. Well, there's 10 steps. You put in 2 or 3 minutes, you just added 20 to 30 minutes to the test. So it's going to kind of look more like this. So I just got it to 100. Oh no, I'd just be watching here. I'm at 100. And yes, the governor cut out. I see the needle moving. It cut out again between 120 and 140. Okay, just cut out at 125. That noise, by the way, when it cuts out, usually the air dryer spits and you'll hear. So cut out at 125. I just told them between 120 and 140. I told them when it did. As soon as I say that, and it cut out at 125, I'm done with that test. Cut the brakes, shut it off, give it a second, turn the key on, and go right to the next step. Now let's do the 3 PSI or loss rate check. I'm going to release my parking brakes. After an initial loss of 5 to 15, I should lose no more than 3 pounds in a minute. I just told them 2 things that should happen. An initial loss, then how much the most it should lose after that. So now I got to tell them both those things what really happened. Okay, my initial loss went from 125 to 110, so that was 15. And I'll time it now. Now, if there's no leaks, it should stay at 115 the whole time. It could drop a pound or 2, no more than 3, but probably won't. After a minute, I look at my watch. Okay, it's been a minute, and oh, I'm still at 110. I didn't lose anything. 4 psi, same exact thing, except instead of pushing the knots in, I'm going to hold the brake down. Okay, I'm going to do the 4 psi LS rate check. Compress, firmly hold the service brake. After an initial loss of 5 to 15, I should lose no more than 4 pounds in a minute. My initial loss, I went from 110 to just about 100, just over 100, so maybe about 8 or 9 pounds. And I'm timed it. Okay, minutes gone by, and yeah, I was just over 100. I'm still just over 100. I didn't lose anything. I'm done. Now I'm going to check my low air warning. I'm going to pump my brakes down. My light and buzzer should come on before it drops below 60. I just pump the brakes up and down. My pressure starts dropping. Now I already showed you the, I built a buzzer into this to tell you not to compound the brakes. By coincidence, this light and buzzer is almost identical to the low air warning. So just so you know, as you're pumping down, it's eventually going to, the buzzer will come on. So then you stop pumping. I gotta hold this down for that to go, but, so, again, you wouldn't be messing with these brakes or anything. I just did that to show you what it would do. But that buzzer just comes on. When it does, you stop, look at the gauge. Okay, my buzzer came on at 60, right at the top of that little pinkish section. By the way, I did model those gauges after the truck. They should be pretty much the same numbers and locations and stuff. So, now I'm going to check the spring brakes. I'm going to pump it down. My spring brakes will come on, and my valves will pop out. They're two different things. These will cause the spring brakes to come on. But I don't want to say my spring brakes will pop out. So, my valves will pop out, putting on the spring brakes. My spring brakes will come on when the valves pop out. It doesn't matter how I word it, but I want to, they're two different things. So I'm going to test my spring brakes. I'm going to pump it down till my valves pop out and my spring brakes come on. It should happen between 20 and 45. I pump. I'm watching the valves. They'll probably both come out together, but they might not. When they do, if only one comes out, keep going until the second one comes out. Again, the truck doesn't have a buzzer. Technically, if you keep pumping and the yellow one comes out first, you're compounding the brakes. But at that point, they just want you to keep pumping until the valves pop out. Okay, so my spring brakes came on at, I read the gauge, what's it at? Probably right around 20. Okay, now I'm going to do the compressor recovery. I don't have to say I will now step on the clutch stuff. I just start the truck. Now, a bunch of places in this, they tell you that you're going to rev the engine 12 to 1400 RPM. When I charge it, stuff like that. That's not really part of the test. I rev it because it goes faster. If I want to charge the system and I got it idling, it's going to take forever. I only have so much time. So I do rev it for that reason. But I don't mention that. It's just something I do. For the compressor recovery, that is part of the test. One of the parameters of the test is the speed of the engine, because you're checking the speed of the compressor. So it's supposed to be at operating RPM. So this is the only time I'm going to mention the RPM. I'm going to say, I'm going to do my compressor recovery, revving between 12 and 1400 RPMs. My pressure should build from 85 to 100 within 45 seconds. I'll time it when it gets to 85. Then I just sit here and it takes a little while. Pressure starts climbing, finally gets to 85. I start my timer. It gets to 100, I stop my timer, then I tell them how long it took. I just told them it should take no more than 45. Probably it'll take about 20. Okay, it took 20 seconds. Gonna keep charging it. All right, system's fully charged. I need to go get my chalk blocks, do the rest of the test. I'm back in, I get my chock block back in the truck. For this part, I want to put the seatbelt on because the truck's going to be moving. Okay, truck's running. Now I put it into first gear. I'm still on the clutch, so it's just idling. Okay, Trooper, first I'm going to test the parking brakes on my trailer. Don't say my trailer brake. The parking brakes on the trailer. You have trailer parking brakes, you have tractor parking brakes. You have trailer service brakes, you have tractor service brakes. You're testing all four. Got to name which ones you're testing. First one you test is the trailer parking brake. People get confused at this point. I know I want to test the trailer parking brakes. And what do people do? They reach for the trailer parking brakes to test them. Well, I'm starting with the brakes on. They're already set. So, it's just confusing until you get used to it. I'm going to test the trailer parking brakes by releasing the tractor parking brakes so I can tug against the trailer. Clutch up a little bit. I feel it starting to shake a little. You just get a little bit of a shimmy. Push on the clutch. Do not. Then the thing starts shaking and bucking and smoking, and people do that all the time. As soon as you feel a little bit of a nudge, step on the clutch. Okay, they're holding. Now I'm going to test the tractor parking brakes. I'll set them. Release the trailer parking brakes. I can tug against the tractor. Same thing. Clutch up. I feel it starting to shake. Step on the clutch. Okay, my tractor parking brakes are holding. Now, before I move the truck, I need to charge the system. Set these brakes, put it neutral, clutch up, step on the accelerator, get it back up to fully charged. Most of the time, all you have to do is step on the accelerator. If it won't charge, if my governor didn't cut in, I might have to go through a whole bunch of steps, which I won't get into too much now, but we can talk about another time. You'll have to literally secure the truck, put the shock block so you can release the brakes to get the governor to cut in to recharge it. But most of the time, that's not going to happen. Okay, my system's charged. Next, I'm going to test the service brakes on the trailer. I'm going to pull ahead at 5 miles an hour, pull down on the trolley bar. That should stop the truck. That applies just service brakes on the trailer. Now, I have to be careful. I don't want the truck to roll. So let the clutch up just barely to the friction point. Release my brakes, lift the clutch up, step on the accelerator, get up to 5 miles an hour, step on the clutch. Pull this down, the truck stops. Okay, my trailer service brakes are working. Got to hold this down until I'm ready to roll again. If I say, okay, now I'm going to test I just failed because I let this go. My truck would be rolling. So that's how I stop the truck. That's how I hold it. Okay. Next, I'm going to test the service brakes by pulling ahead at 5 miles an hour. I'm going to loosen my grip on the wheel, apply the brakes. The truck should come to a stop without the steering wheel pulling left or right. Because of the clutch, release that. Get up to 5. Step on the clutch. I don't take my hands off the wheel, but I keep my fingertips on the back. I go from holding it like this to just this. I step on the brake. Truck stops. Wheel doesn't pull left or right. And I've just finished the test. Now I do want to secure the vehicle. Now there's kind of a balance. I want to set the brakes without compounding it. If I pull this and leave my foot on the brake, I've compounded them. I take my foot off the brake and then I do this. Before I get my hand on that, I could be rolling. So, I'm holding the truck like this, still in gear, but my foot's on the clutch. I'm going to set the brakes. It takes about a half a second longer for those brakes to set than the foot pedal to release. So, I'm going to set them just slightly before I come off. About a half a second. You won't hear the buzzer, but that actually gives you a pretty good idea on time how long it takes me to get my foot off. Now, when I pull the yellow knob, like I said, the red knob would have come with it. I shut the engine off, let it stop moving, let the clutch up. And I'm done with the bleed down. So next thing they're going to do is the in-cap. But that's the bleed down. Now, if you follow along, I hope it makes sense. Like I said, another time we'll do it. And without a whole lot of explanation, it goes pretty quickly and pretty smoothly.